This conflict is no longer just about missiles, borders, or military retaliation. What is happening between Iran, Israel, and the United States could soon affect oil prices, shipping routes, inflation, and the global economy. In the last phase of the war, Iran launched long-range missile attacks as the confrontation intensified, while fears around regional security and energy infrastructure grew dramatically. To understand why this matters so much, we need to look beyond the battlefield. This is not only a military crisis. It is also a crisis centered on energy, trade, and one of the most important choke points in the world, the Strait of Hormuz. Reuters reports that roughly 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas passes through Hormuz, which means any serious disruption there can hit global fuel supplies very fast. The immediate trigger is the latest escalation in the Iran-Israel conflict. Recent attacks raised fears that energy infrastructure across the region could be targeted or indirectly disrupted. Markets reacted quickly because investors know that when the Gulf becomes unstable, oil and gas prices can rise in a matter of hours, not months. Reuters says the war has already caused a major global energy shock, with oil prices surging and gas markets reacting sharply. Why is Hormuz so important? Because this narrow waterway is one of the world's most critical energy arteries. Massive volumes of crude oil, refined fuels, and LNG move through it every day. If traffic is restricted, delayed, or threatened, the entire chain starts to wobble tankers, insurers, ports, refineries, airlines, factories, and finally ordinary consumers. Even countries far from the Middle East can feel the effects through higher transportation costs and higher prices. Across the economy, and this is where the story becomes global. Rising oil prices do not stay in the energy sector. They spread. Fuel becomes more expensive. Shipping becomes more expensive. Food production and distribution become more expensive. Inflation pressure rises. Central banks face more uncertainty. Financial markets become more nervous. Reuters reports that the current disruption has pushed governments and markets to prepare for higher costs and lower consumption, while energy security has become a top diplomatic priority. There is also another layer to this crisis: natural gas. The region is not only vital for oil, but also for LNG flows that matter to Europe and Asia. If gas infrastructure is damaged or shipments are delayed, the impact can spread into electricity markets, industrial production, and winter energy planning. Reuters has reported attacks on major oil and gas sites in the Middle East as the conflict widened, adding more pressure to already fragile supply chains. This is why global powers are watching the conflict so closely. The G7 has already signaled support for actions aimed at protecting energy supply and maritime security, especially around Hormuz. That tells us something important. World leaders are not treating this as a distant regional war. They are treating it as a possible global economic risk. For ordinary people, the meaning is simple. If this conflict keeps escalating, the consequences may show up in everyday life. Higher prices at the pump, more expensive goods, more volatile markets, and a wider sense of global instability. A war that begins with missile strikes can end up affecting household budgets thousands of miles away. And that is the real reason this story matters. This is not just a headline from the Middle East. It is a test of how fragile the global economy still is when a major energy corridor comes under pressure. If the Strait of Hormuz remains unstable, this conflict could become far more than a military crisis. It could become the next global economic shock.